Forget this intro is real short, so.
Right.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Chortle Cast. I am one of your hosts for tonight, Jake, and I'm joined, as always, by the Stream King, the Far Cry Guy, the man who may cry devil, and l'Assassin, Steven.
What's up?
Of course, the Assassin, because he played Assassin's Creed, you know.
Which one?
That one was Unity.
It was very good.
Based in Paris. Bonjour. Olez-vous français? Tais-toi. Those are all the French words I know.
You say "Olez-vous français"?
I did not say that, but that actually you've caught me in a lie, Stephen. I do know those French words, so I did not state all the French words that I know, but those were most of them.
Did you post to Discord or should I post to Discord?
Please, if you don't mind.
I shall.
Of course, this is Chortle Cast, the official podcast of Chortle Games, where we talk about video games, TV shows, movies, anime, whatever the heck we want to talk about. We got a great show for you tonight, folks. We are going to be talking, just catching up, playing a little catch up tonight for all the things we've been playing. I have been playing a plethora of things, while Steven has been playing Xenoblade Chronicles a lot. So
I've been playing so much freaking Xenoblade.
he's having a blast.
I've been playing a lot of games that I've already talked to death. So waiting for September to.
What are you waiting for? Like what's the next game on your list that you're just like, when that one comes, that's when it's gonna pop off?
I'm hitting up Gunfire when that expansion comes out. September did have a shakeup to where games I was waiting for did get pushed.
Mm-hmm.
It was like Dark Tide got pushed to 23, I think. I'll have to get back to you on that because honestly, I know there's something, but
there is something.
There is something, but there's a baby also coming. So really, I should probably say, well, Jake, the next game that I'm looking forward to is Fatherhood.
Oh, what a sweet lie! What a sweet lie! I love it.
Yeah, Austin says I'm quiet. So if you could not be a huge narcissist and
look
to be
the
only mic here, and
when I tell you you've been in the red, I'm telling you you've been in the red. But I pushed you up a little bit. So
I'm gonna remedy this. I'm gonna grab the Yankee Candle. My mic is up here now.
There you go.
Anyway.
That's probably going to improve it a good bit. But anyway, I digress. Well, it's funny, Steven, just looking. I pulled up my calendar, and I don't have everything, but I have things that I'm looking forward to, right? And Midnight Fight Express comes out tomorrow.
It does.
Haven't heard a lot about it, so I'm still kind of...
That's because Saints Row is busy
dominating the conversation right now.
Absolutely lashed
in
reviews.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah, you hate to see it. You hate to see something come out and flop so hard. But hey, we'll see. If it comes to Game Pass, I do think it'd be fun to do. So, hoping Midnight Fight Express is better though. We'll have to see. Of course, also tomorrow is Gamescom opening night live for us. That's happening at 1 p.m. Central Standard. I am planning on doing a reaction.
I'll be there.
Steven's going to be there at least for the beginning. We don't know how long it's going to go. I feel like there was one of these that went on for like 4 hours. And I don't remember if it was Gamescom.
It's not Gamescom. I'm thinking Gamescom will be like an hour, maybe 2 hours.
I just remember there was something that Jeff Keighley was hosting.
It was Video Game Awards, probably.
No, because that usually does go pretty long, but it wasn't that, because we always react to those. Like by the way, that's coming out December 8th. I've already marked that on my calendar, so we will do a reaction to that too as well. But anyway, I digress. Don't want to go on this too long. But anyway, that's something happening. But the next big thing that I'm like really excited about is Splatoon 3. That's what I was kind of hinting at for you. I was like, I need you to at least try it. Actually,
it's going to be so much money for a game that I probably wouldn't like.
this Saturday is the Splatfest beta demo thing, so you may need to jump on and try that. In fact, I think you can actually be playing it right now to get ready for actual Splatfest day. But I haven't gotten that far into looking into it. So
the full release of Grounded comes out in September. I don't think that's what I was thinking.
That is the 27th. Yes. Also on that day, Kena Bridge of Spirits is getting an update that I'm just super pumped for. I think it's basically, they've been calling it an update, but it's basically a DLC. Like, they're adding a new game plus, they're adding a like challenge mode, like where you can just do like a boss rush. They've added costumes, new hats for your rot creatures, but also they released a trailer today. I think there's like a very small new story. So there's like new bosses, new like enemies to fight. So
interesting.
I'm very excited about that one. I never got to platinum it. There was some weird thing about replaying the game again after you beat it, and I was like, without a new game plus, I'm not in for this. But I think it would. But now that we have a new game plus, I'm absolutely going to go back and do that. So very exciting.
Well, you know what else is coming out?
What else is coming out?
Guild Wars 2 is hitting Steam tomorrow. And that's a big deal because you're going to have a lot of influx of players. So that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Kind of amazing that Guild Wars 2 went 10 years and didn't touch Steam. Don't know why it took them so freaking long.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm trying to think of where I even launch it from.
You launch it from the client.
Yeah.
It's got its own thing.
Crazy.
So the two things I'm looking forward to that are coming up, Geofield Chronicles, that's September. I'm keeping an eye on that one. But other than that, Gunfire DLC coming out a week from today, I believe. And then Aliens Fireteam Elite is getting its big expansion on the 30th. So I'm looking forward to both of those. And there's something else, but I can't find it. All of these lists that I'm looking for keep saying Warhammer Darktide, but that is not coming. That is coming out in November. I can confirm now that I got pushed to November.
I made a whole calendar for just release dates for this reason, because I have to keep up with it. And when I hear about stuff, I try to update it as quickly as possible. Because
November is looking pretty stacked now.
Did you? Yeah, you didn't mention Gotham Knights in October since you jumped into November, but yeah.
Yeah, well, October, that's got Gotham Knights, Sons of the Forest,
Plague Tale Requiem.
I don't care about that. Hey, Courtney and Austin.
Is Sons of the Forest coming out in October?
Pretty sure. Let me check.
I thought that had gotten delayed.
I did see, no, it did not. It did, but it got delayed to October.
Gotcha.
Because it was supposed to come out, I think, in May.
That's going to be a better time for it anyway.
Yes,
which I'm sure I said at the time, but still.
But Plague Tale went gold yesterday, I think.
I saw that. Yep. Very exciting. Very exciting stuff. Yeah. This isn't even what we were here to talk about, folks.
Wait.
Did you figure it out? We are here to catch up on games we've been playing. I have, of course, been playing Cult of the Lamb, a little game called Roller Dome. But I've also been watching a little bit, catching up on some movies. I watched Lightyear, and then Steve and I both watched She-Hulk. And so we had a conversation at really throughout our live stream of Monster Hunter this past week. But I had not seen anything, so it was really more of a like deeper kind of conversation of like, how these types of stories are being done in the media and like what that all does. So this is probably going to be more about She-Hulk itself, because Steven was trying not to, spoil too much for me or anything like that, wanted me to watch it. So we're going to have that conversation.
Courtney, I'm glad you're here. Please stick around as long as you can, because I'm going to need a woman's perspective on this so that I can confirm whether or not She-Hulk episode 1 was the worst episode of Marvel television that I've ever seen.
Well, I have Lee Allison's opinion on it as well, so we can chat.
Well, I have Anna's opinion.
I know. Yes, it does, from what I understand. But anyway, we'll talk it all out. But anyway, I'll start just because I have a lot of things I want to talk about. So I'll kind of we'll save She-Hulk for maybe in the middle or something to to give us a break. But I'll start with Cult of the Lambs, or Cult of the Lamb, not Lambs. Little indie game. It's been I feel like it's been shown off at showcases. It's the worst episode of television years. Wow.
Thank you, Courtney.
Wow. Okay. A Cult of the Lamb. You probably, if you've watched any of our reactions to like different showcases at any point, I feel like you've probably seen this. It was kind of, for me personally, I felt like it was kind of becoming the next. I'm forgetting the Arkham game that got shown so much. It had a real 70s vibe. You play as a guy, and it's every day is the same. You're trying to kill your daughter. She's trying to kill you. Steven, help me out here. It was on PlayStation. Deathloop, thank you. Deathloop. Deathloop just kind of was at a lot of showcases. It was just like, okay, right. We've seen enough of this game. That's kind of how I felt about Cult of the Lamb. Anyway.
Yeah, but Deathloop's showcase presence was better than the actual game. Yeah. Every time they came out with a new trailer, it was a banger.
Right. They had such a theme that it was always good. Anyway, I felt like it was just like, okay, I get it. This game is coming out. But I didn't really know how good it was going to be. The whole premise is like you are a leader of a cult, and it's like, I don't know that I really want to like get into this. But anyway, when reviews dropped, they were overwhelmingly positive. Like 9s, some 10s, but mostly 9s. And so that's when I kind of took a deeper look at it. Obviously, it's a roguelite with some sim elements kind of mixed into it. So I'm a bigger fan of roguelites because Steven has directed me to so many, and I've played so many because of him. But I think by and large, and Steven, please feel free to correct me here, but by and large, I am the bigger sim player. So I thought this might be a really interesting melding of worlds for me. And I'm happy to say that it is, sometimes there's the expression, don't half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing. Yes. They did a pretty good job of like three-fourths assing both things. So it's a really good roguelite, really compelling, really short too, which I appreciated. Your runs can typically be done in like 10, 15 minutes, which isn't overwhelmingly uncommon, I'd say, for a roguelite, but it was really nice to just be able to pop in, do the run, pop out, and go. And then likewise on the flip side, the sim elements were really engaging, and what's cool is they work in tandem. So a lot of the things you're doing for your cult on the sim side is giving you buffs and boosts in the roguelite side. So, for instance, you can build a, I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's basically a demon summoning circle. And basically you can turn any of your followers into demons that will then follow you on the next run, and they'll give you certain buffs depending on which demon they are. So like the one I ran with there was a demon that anytime you got close to somebody, it would punch the person near you, and the level of the follower affected how much damage was dealt. And so suddenly I really cared about which followers were my demon hunter, were my demon people that I was just constantly sacrificing to become demons to help me fight. But like there's cool elements like that where what you're doing in the sim side is helping you to do better on the roguelite side. And so go ahead.
It's funny to me how just randomly, the most random of games can act as a gateway for player base as a whole for an entire genre. Because I feel like Cult of the Lamb has been not the first roguelite experience, but a roguelite that has really hooked people and introduced people, like a large set of people, to roguelite elements that are fairly standard. Because you saying that and being like, oh, it's really cool. I'm sitting here thinking like, that's a lot of roguelites.
Well, yeah. Well, like getting stuff but not like sim. There's usually not like super
Rogue Heroes, Ruins of Tassos, Moonlighter.
Moonlighter. That's the whole, you're managing a shop and whatnot. So
but like it's just weird to me. Like, and this isn't to like to meant to sound demeaning or anything, but it's of all the games to be the one that really resonates with people, Cult of the Lamb. It's just so strange.
Well, and I'll tell you this too: the thing that really I think is appealing to it is the art style is really really cool. It's got these cutesy animal creatures that you're fighting, and then even on the enemy side, there are these really creepy looking monsters, and so it's got a really nice vibe all around, and the style is there for sure, and is a huge part of. I mean, I think most games, right? Like if it visually looks appealing to you, you're going to look into it more. And then if everything else kind of aligns, it's good. My complaints about it, and Steve and I, your roguelite expertise will be appreciated here, because the way one thing that I don't think I've experienced a roguelike that's done this, and it's my one kick about this is when you start a run, you're given a random weapon and a random you have a curse. You have a curse that you get as like your range. Sometimes they're not range, but you get the idea. Your spell. You're given both of those at the start. They're random. Again, sim elements can boost like the level of like you'll get a better weapon if you upgrade this or do whatever. But it was always random, and so very easily there were weapons that I favored or would prefer to have over other weapons. And then even beyond that, there eventually you start to unlock different types of weapons. So like I think there were Bane weapons, which had a chance to poison enemies on hit. There were like Zealous weapons that had a chance to give you more energy for your curses. And then there was one that was just God. I think it was literally called God mode or God tier or something like that. And it was literally just, if normally your axe has an attack damage of like 2.5, the God tier axe had a damage output of 10.7 or something like that. Just it was like crazy high numbers compared to what you're used to. And it's like, okay, well, obviously I'd like to do whatever I could to start with that.
Right.
But it just you have little effect of.
Do you get weapons during the run?
Yes. So you can there's a shop that can randomly appear where and I say a shop, you get a free choice of 3 weapons. Usually it'll be like 2 weapons, 1 curse, or 2 curses, 1 weapon. But even those are random. It's hit or miss of if you're going to get like. I learned very quickly that I liked the sword. I figured very quickly that the axe was kind of my de facto weapon. It was a little bit slower, but it hit hard. And for me, I wanted to hit hard enough to kill things in one hit so that I didn't have to worry about it again. Above that, there was a hammer that hurt even harder than an axe, but is slower. So like those were what I was always aiming for. But if I got a dagger or there's these kind of claw weapons, the claw weapons were horrible. I hated those. It's like a 3 attack combo, and the 3rd attack is really the only one that's worth doing. But the 2 in between don't do any damage at all, and in some cases they don't even flinch the enemies. So you're just kind of stuck there doing whatever.
It's meant for crit builds.
Exactly. Yes. So I was. It's not my favorite way. And then some of the spells were hit or miss for me too. I stuck to a lot of the. I almost said necrophilia, which is not right. I'm thinking of necromantic. Thank you. The necromantic curses, which usually summoned ghosts that would seek out enemies and hit them. Yeah. So anyway, that's like my one gripe is that I wish they would have let you purchase something or upgrade something to like.
That is odd to hear that a roguelite with sim elements leans on RNG based runs, like starting you with RNG, because normally like Moonlighter and Rogue Heroes jump out to me specifically. In those, you are upgrading your character over time utilizing the sim elements so that you know what you're working towards. But then you have stuff like Dead Cells and what's the other one? I had another one in mind, but basically they're the ones that like when you start the run. Well, I guess Gunfire Reborn is another example of that, where you start the run, and RoboQuest as well. The first thing you see is a chest that gives you one of X amount of options for the gun that you get. So it's odd to me to hear a game that focuses heavy on sim elements to also have heavy RNG.
Yeah, yeah. Just another fun element I didn't mention, but if you've heard me talk about this, you may have heard me talk about this. You also, so obviously you're getting followers. That's like one of the whole things is you're recruiting these woodland creatures to be your followers in the cult. So you can pull them in. There's all sorts of cute animals. It's great. You can name them. You can change their color. You can change what animal they are. And so, of course, I named all of mine whatever animal they were, Steven. So it's a great time. Cool. It's a great time. Yeah, yeah. I sacrificed a lot of Stevens. I killed a lot of Stevens. But Cow Steven took me home. You know what I mean? He took me to the end.
So the cows did come home.
The cows did come home. Cow Steven was my archer demon who would shoot things, and I had him crazy high level. So he was like shooting things constantly. I think he even got the killing blow on the final boss. So thank you, Steven. I appreciate that. Yeah. Courtney says, can you clarify if you're punished for failing a run?
So like, what are the consequences of dying?
So what you're doing in a run is you're trying to, so there's these 4 bishops of the old faith is what they're called. And so each bishop has its own biodome that you're going to. As you're going on a run, there's certain resources that you can collect, and in some cases are only available in their biomes. Like there's one boss who's supposed to be like a squid. His biome has a bunch of crystals that you can collect while you're going through there. But otherwise, you're literally just doing the run to kill the bishop, and so if you fail, you just lose, in most cases, just some of your resources that you collected during that run. But otherwise, it's not super punishing. I guess the other way, you have to make sure that your followers are fed, no one gets sick, that sort of thing. And when you're on this run, like the clock's ticking in a sense. Like one time I was on a run, I was doing really good. I was about midway through and I was going to try to push on. And I got a notification that one of my followers had died. Now, what happens when they die is they fall over dead, and they start to rot. Your villagers will see them, and in many cases, they will start to get sick and throw up. When they throw up, that makes other characters sick, and so sickness can spread incredibly fast at that point. So, like, when I got that notification, I was like, crap, I need to get back, like, now. Like, I need to either just bail or die or something. And so that's kind of an element, is that you don't want to be gone for too long if something crazy is happening. But other than that, I wouldn't say it's super punishing at all. I mean, my first blush at that question would be no, it's not super punishing. And also, like, you can play, there's a lot of great difficulties. I would say medium is a really nice, like, balance. I didn't feel super challenged in medium. I definitely lost a couple fights to some bishops, but I was able to pretty much push through. But a great compliment to this, I have almost platinumed it. There's a glitch on the PS5 version that has already been fixed on PC so I'm just waiting for that update to come. But I basically have platinumed it. But one thing that's nice that they did is they allow you to get trophies on any difficulty. So I appreciate that, just as somebody who doesn't want to spend a ton of time, grinding for certain trophies. So I played the whole game on medium and then went back and like one of the trophies is beat the bishops without taking any damage. So I knocked it down to easy, basically did a run until I had, a really strong weapon, and then just went in there swinging and tried to kill them before they could hit me. So anyway, lots of good stuff there. So it's more like a bad run is a neutral outcome. Yes, exactly. That's a great way of looking at it. So anyway, it's just really good. Again, the art style is great. There's different biomes you can explore outside of runs that, like, you can go fishing. They have this fun game called Knucklebones. I don't know if Knucklebones is like a real game, Steven, but I think it would be super fun to play, like if you're just like trying to kill some time with somebody. Not like a sit down, we're gonna like not like a Sentinels of the Multiverse, like we're gonna have a blast, like a 7-hour block of playing this game. But like,
Right.
if you got some dice and you're just like, hey, you want to play something to kill 10 minutes while we wait for whatever. But so that was fun. Trying to think of what else. But yeah, I don't know. It's good. Lol, you want to be a part of that completionist? Yes, I exactly. I want to be a completionist, but I want to have a life. So that's what I'm all about. Speaking of this, Steven, I have decided that at our Game of the Year conversation, I'm gonna also award a best trophy list of the year for each.
Okay.
For that's going to be an award I give out during that podcast. So look forward to that. But anyway, Cult of the Lamb, I super recommend it. I think it's super fun, especially if you're a fan of roguelite, if you're a fan of sim life. I really think
Forcing people to eat poop.
there is that. I fed many a Steven poop. I had one Steven who wanted to feed another, who thought it would be a fun prank to make another Steven eat poop. I did that. Then I had a Steven come up and he said, hey, I'm going to be honest, I got this weird thing. I've always wanted to eat poop. Can you feed me poop? And I said, Steven, I'd be happy to feed you poop. So it's a great time. It's very fun.
This game is shenanigans.
It's shenanigans galore. You can do rituals too that like give you different buffs and whatnot. So you can you can sacrifice them. You can marry your followers. You can there's a one ritual that legitimately saved me so many times. You can do a feast ritual, which just like instantly sets your food to full. And I can't tell you how many times I struggled initially to keep up with food management. So that one saved me. But anyway, very fun. Again, it's not like super in depth in the sim. It's not like an Animal Crossing sim. It's not super. I think really it does super well as a roguelike. Again, I don't like the random weapon at the beginning, but I think it's a great roguelike. And if you like, it's one of those things that if you like sim stuff and you kind of want to get into roguelites, this is a great entry point for you.
Yeah.
I don't know that if you're a roguelike person, I don't think it would get you into sim stuff, but like I think you would still enjoy the elements that you have there. So
yeah,
it's a lot of fun. But Steven, would you rather me press on and finish talking about Roller Dome and then we can maybe get into She-Hulk, or do you want to jump to She-Hulk now so you can talk a little bit?
You tell me. I'd have basically nothing to talk about.
I'm sorry.
I was spending the first part of this podcast looking at analytics on our channel. Did you know that we gained a subscriber from the Fortnite fail video, the short?
The short? No,
Yeah,
but I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
That was an oldie but a goodie.
Yeah. So
if it's cool with you, I'd like to press through and finish Roller Dome, and then I think She-Hulk and then Lightyear would be a good way to progress about this. Courtney would prefer She-Hulk though, so we'll switch to She-Hulk for you, Courtney.
Okay.
So She-Hulk came out this week, or I guess this past week. Another is it Thursdays that it goes?
Thursdays.
Okay, yeah, Thursdays. So, like I said, we had a pretty in-depth conversation about just like these types of stories in that Monster Hunter stream. So feel free to go back and listen to some of that. But talking about the episode itself, it's funny. Steven did not like it. And I watched it knowing Steven did not like it, but I thought it was good. I mean, I enjoyed it.
You're gonna have to explain yourself.
I mean,
that bad to where I need to understand.
See, the problem is like when you say it was, you were like it's objectively bad. Like I just don't.
It is
I don't
objectively
see.
bad.
I don't see anything.
Like, what's good about it?
I liked seeing Banner and his cousin. I thought they introduced Jennifer very well. I wasn't a big fan of the fourth wall break at the very beginning. By the end of the episode, I thought it was fine. Like I did like there's a moment Banner's saying something like, I think they had just had a fight And he was like, if you want to go back and be a lawyer, like, that's fine. And she's holding up a thing. She looks at the camera. She was like, he doesn't mean that. And then he kind of looks back confused. She kind of looks at us like, don't say anything, whatever.
That
like,
moment is horrid.
Why do you think that's horrid?
Because sure, she breaks the fourth wall, but normally it implies with fourth wall breaks, think Zach from Saved by the Bell, like time freezes, he looks at the camera and talks to it. So it is implied in that moment that it's in his head talking to the audience. And so it's just kind of a comedic narrative device. But in that, the fact that Banner turns around and looks at her implies that he hears her breaking the fourth wall. So it's more of a Deadpool situation, which makes no sense. So it's just used as a lazy device to get cheap laughs and to use as a crutch for storytelling. Much like they did at the end of the episode when she was like, so yeah, that's me. Like talking to the camera saying, this is how I feel in this moment. That's horrid. That is bad.
I didn't think it was bad. Because from what I understand it, her comic does that as well. She breaks the fourth wall in that. So that's like why they're bringing that in. But even without all of that context, like the first one, I even text you, I was like, woo, I don't like this hot out of the gate. She's turning and looking at me and being like, here's my life story. It's like, I didn't like it there, but once we had kind of established like, okay, this is kind of just how the show goes. I thought it was fine. So anyway, but
if they had not done the one with Banner, I would have been like, okay, this doesn't make any sense and it's tonally jarring, but okay, whatever. But the fact they did the one with Banner and Banner was aware that she was talking to somebody just completely makes the premise self-implode. And it's all played for cheap laughs, which this show really likes to try to do. And in my opinion, never lands with humor, not even once. It was not remotely funny.
I actually laughed out loud at the final scene where she's in the courtroom and she gets up to do her closing statements. And I forget the villain's name, but she busts open the door.
It's because they never say the villain's name.
Well, there you go.
The villain's there.
There you go. She pops in, and her friend Nikki, I think, is like, do the thing, go, whatever. And she hulks out, and the villain's like, who are you? And she's like, I'm Jennifer, attorney at law. And I don't know if that's where it got me, or if it was once she like went back normal and was just like fixed her hair and then was like, okay, I'm ready to give my closing statements. Like she just like nothing had happened. I thought that was pretty funny. What's up, Aaron?
That was a big nothing for me.
Yeah.
It just didn't land.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Anyway, I mean, I think very much the show is not going to be for everybody. That's kind of the big thing I got out of it. Talking again, I thought the moment, and I know this was one moment you called out that you didn't like. The very beginning, we see Banner and Jennifer in the car, and she's asking him about Steve Rogers' sex life. You know, is he a virgin? Did he die a virgin? Whatever. I listened to that. I know Steven you didn't like that. I thought it was fine. Like
I actively disliked it.
I didn't dislike it at all. I thought it was an interesting. To me, it was an interesting question. That's like, how would we ever know this? Like, I'm not going to say that I've just like been. I've been so curious this whole time. Did Captain Rogers have sex? But like in the very back of my mind, in a cabinet somewhere, it's like, well, did he? I don't know. Like, this is interesting. But I've listened to other podcasts with people talking about this episode, with women reviewing it specifically, and they've all been like, this has been a question I've been wanting answered. So
that's bullcrap.
No, I can pull.
I know you heard it.
Yes,
but they're talking through their ass. I'm sorry.
Well,
no one, like, the only people who have wondered that is basically Tumblr, and like it didn't need to be answered. It's disrespectful to the character, and it wasn't even funny to me. Like, it just didn't land as a joke, and it didn't make sense that Banner knew. Like, where did he get this information from? That's not something Steve would tell him. It just made no in-universe sense, and it was all like, hey, let's abandon logic and character so that we can get this cheap laugh because someone probably asked this on Tumblr one time 4 years ago. It's just bad writing.
From what I understand, Kevin Feige was the one who specifically was like, we need to put this in there. So I don't know.
Well, Kevin Feige's losing his touch, and I have no problem saying that.
There you
go. I'm disappointed.
Well, anyway, I didn't I didn't hate it, and I thought it was fine. I didn't specifically laugh at that moment. There was a cool thing set up after that though, where there's the Sicarian ship that shows up. A lot of people theorizing we're going to get this is setting up for like World War Hulk, where in that comic run, Hulk has a son that he had on Sakaar. So I'm really curious if that's where we're headed with that storyline. But anyway, they get in a car accident. She gets a cut. Some of Banner's blood gets into her blood, and she turns into a Hulk. Now that, Stephen, is maybe one place I can meet you and say, I don't know that I buy this, but okay.
Well, if they are really going with that, then that means somewhere in the Marvel Universe, Stan Lee is a Hulk. Because in The Incredible Hulk, some of Banner's blood falls into a soda in a soda factory, and Stan Lee's cameo for that movie was him drinking the soda that had Banner's blood in it, and we never find out what happens to him.
There you go.
So that very much felt like, much like everything else in this show, in this episode, it felt like we need to get to B, so let's just speed through A. Like the explaining the inhibitor device just to throw it in the trash and then to say, it won't work for you. Moving on. Like that was rush A to B.
There was a lot of exposition.
All for nothing. It was exposition that actively created plot holes.
Now I'll settle with you on the plot holes thing, like the armband. Like I don't understand why they showed that. Supposedly, and what I really think, this is probably the real answer.
Hey Joe.
For whatever reason, Shang-Chi's closing scene had Banner in human form, and he still had the cast right in the car. Excuse me, in the car ride, he's talking about how his arm can't heal in Hulk form, which I don't understand why that would be a thing. But okay, if we've established that comment, great. The thing breaks. Somehow he uses her blood to fix his arm.
Yep.
Like, okay. Like, I definitely think that was them trying to quickly, like you're saying, cover up that plot hole of like, why did this not happen? Whatever.
But these are very important things. And the theme of the entire episode and probably the entire show, which makes me kind of scoff at the thought that just seeing a Sakaran ship implies that we'll get World War Hulk, because getting World War Hulk would imply that Marvel doesn't hate the character of Bruce Banner. And they clearly do, because every single bit of interesting storytelling that they've set up for him in the distant past or in the recent past, they've just thrown it in the dumpster. And
I don't think
4 of those things they did in this one episode alone.
I don't think they hate Banner. I think they are limited with what they can do with Banner, period. They don't have movie rights for him. They cannot make a movie that's a Hulk movie. The solution, honestly, the best we got out of that was the arc with him in, I guess it was it Age of Ultron that he disappeared? And then he showed back up in Thor.
Yes.
And then obviously in Infinity War, he is, having his issues there. And then all of that is resolved off camera, right? That stuff was cut for time. Like I actually, just today, I saw a clip from Infinity War where it was supposed to be Banner and Hulk had fused. Smart Hulk made his appearance in Infinity War. And that was supposed to be kind of the resolution of that, instead of just having him show up in game, correct. So now I'll admit, like, they haven't done him right by him. Like, I hate that story is off camera. We get a little bit of that here. Like, this is obviously the Gamma lab that he went through the treatments and kind of joined with the Hulk. Like, we get some of that, but we're not getting we don't have even though this whole episode has to answer a lot of questions about Bruce and introduce us to Jennifer in 30 minutes. So there's not a whole lot of time to do any of it. So that I think that's ultimately just, I think Hulk has just, the reason Hulk hasn't had like just the most amazing story in the MCU so far is really, it's not his fault. It's not any writer's fault. It's just they can't dedicate the time to him because they don't have the rights for it.
But see, they can. They just can't do a dedicated Hulk solo movie.
Right.
Which Marvel doesn't want to do solo movies with established characters anymore anyway. So what's stopping them from doing Avengers World War Hulk, Avengers Planet Hulk, whatever?
Well, I think
nothing. They can do that.
They could. Yes.
And so it's not that they are, well, my hands are tied, because they're actively using it. And if they were so interested in only using characters that can make solo movies for, they wouldn't be actively using Hulk.
So let me ask you this. Do you feel like they've done right by someone like, I guess Hawkeye recently just got his own show. Do you feel like they've done better with Hawkeye? And I know I would assume you'd say yes, because his show is actually pretty good. But
Avengers Age of Ultron wrote them into a corner with Hawkeye, considering that they've done pretty good. I will say that like the payoff a lot of the setup that they've done with Hawkeye could have been better. Like I would have liked to see more of Hawkeye during Endgame with like what he was doing during this, like after the snap. But like the fact that he was the emotional center of that film in a lot of ways felt right. So I do think, like, especially compared to Hulk, yes, like Hawkeye's been handled pretty well. Especially considering how much of a corner they were written into when they established him as a family man. That was very different and very odd, but the choices that they've made with that, they've managed to make it good and make sense, even though that was a big change for the character. And then with Hulk, they wrote themselves into a corner. They didn't really write themselves into a corner until Professor Hulk, which the fact that they call him Smart Hulk feels like they don't even know their own characters. Because I've never heard anyone call him Smart Hulk. It's Professor Hulk. And Banner even says, like, it's Smart Hulk, actually. No, it's not. It's Professor Hulk.
Well, he even says there, he says, you don't get to choose these things. Like, people just name you, and that's it. So
and everyone chose Professor Hulk. I was a part of, I remember when that decision was made, but whatever. Just one of those things. It just felt like, it felt tone deaf. Like, the person that wrote that line wasn't in on it. Like, in on the whole Professor Hulk thing. They just kind of were like, well, Hulk's smart now, so let's call him Smart Hulk. I don't know. Small complaint, but it's there.
Yeah, no, I get specifically to that. I feel like that's more of a audience thing or trying to appeal to the lowest common denominator of just like,
that's what the show's really good at.
people who aren't like deep comic fans, like just like they've been calling him Smart Hulk. Let's just meet in the middle there and go with that. So I think that's more of that. But anyway, I think what they've done with Hulk has been really good for what they can do with Hulk. To your point, I totally think, yeah, we could get a Avengers World War Hulk movie where technically Hulk is the main character, but obviously he's surrounded by lots of other people. I just think because he has only been allowed to be a side character, I don't think they really had the time to be able to give him as much limelight. So
in your opinion, how have they done well with him? Like, what's been good about Bruce Banner since?
I really like what they were doing, again, from Age of Ultron, him kind of leaving the team. And this is not an uncommon thing for the Hulk, right? But just thinking and having the opinion that I am more of a danger than I am a help.
Right.
He leaves as the Hulk, and it is the Hulk for 2-3 years, something like that.
2 years.
On Sakaar, Planet Hulk is happening, right? Again, all kind of off screen, but I think, but then to come from that to be broken out of the Hulk to be brought back as Banner, realize you lost 2 years of your life, and to kind of just be wrestling with, I don't want to turn back into the Hulk because I may never come back. Like, I don't know what's going to happen here. And then him basically sacrificing that chance, like in a way he sacrificed himself, turning into Hulk in that final fight, not knowing, will I come back? Will Hulk let me be Banner again?
Actually, well, are you talking about in the final fight in Age of Ultron?
No, I'm talking about in
Ragnarok.
Ragnarok, yes, because
I was going to say he didn't choose to be Hulk in Age of Ultron. No. Black Widow literally threw him off a cliff.
No, yeah. So that he left the planet, he did that. He becomes Banner during Ragnarok. They go back to Asgard. He's fighting the wolf, right? And all the people are about to be hurt, and he's like, I forget what he says to Valkyrie, but he jumps off and he splats on the ground, and then Hulk catches the mouth of Fenrir right before he chomps on somebody. Anyway, that moment, that was in a way a sacrificial move because he didn't know if he could come back as Banner or not. And then in Endgame, him getting the shit beat out of him by Thanos.
Infinity War,
thank you. And sent to the Sanctum, and being turned back into Banner, and Hulk not wanting to come. And I think there's a line even where Banner's like, buddy, we got a lot to work through, or something like that. Like, we've got to come to an agreement here. And so I really wish we had gotten that moment of like where they did come to a resolution of like, we need to join together. We need to work together. We're going to be better as one person instead of two, an alter and a self. I wish we could have seen that, and I don't even know that they would have executed what they did well, but regardless, I hate that we missed that note. But I think that journey for Hulk is a pretty interesting one, because
it was. Go ahead.
So does that answer your question of like why I think they've done?
My question was more so because I agree Hulk has been fine up until Professor Hulk. Professor Hulk took everything that's interesting about Hulk and it just took a dump on it. And the character of Hulk essentially died in that fight with Thanos. So Hulk technically died as a sacrificial lamb to pump up a character, which I think was good that they did that. It was a great way to power check Thanos, but for them to say, yeah, Hulk lost this fight, he's too scared to come out and fight again, and that's the last we see Hulk. One, that's an insult to the Hulk aspect of Bruce Banner, and two, removing the Jekyll and Hyde aspect of Hulk at all is a huge insult to the character, because that's Anna's a big Hulk fan, and she's always said that's the most interesting part of the character is his duality. And to take all of that and just say, nah, he's just big, smart, green dude that doesn't want to punch anything anymore, that dabs at children and says, bruh. That just feels so disrespectful and just lame.
So what I was saying is the creation of Professor Hulk, in my mind, is a great close to the Hulk story, right? Banner and Bruce, or Banner and Hulk, who, as you're saying, like that, I totally agree. Like the split personality of Hulk,
but they didn't really fuse. Like I know.
Well, hang on. Let me finish my thought. Them fusing, I thought that was a good resolution of that whole character. Like, honestly, I wish, like, really and truly, not that I wished Hulk died, but like that should have been the end. Like, boom, boom, Hulk is done. Like, off into the sunset, whatever. Because to your point, he's not nearly as interesting as he was now that he's just Banner, with the Hulk's powers and body. So I get you there, but I don't know. Like, again, that fusion, that happening, I thought was a great end to that character. I don't think that it's disrespectful to anything now.
But it wasn't a fusing. It was like the whole idea of them coming together and being able to work out their differences and share an existence. They don't share an existence. Like, it's literally just Banner takes the Hulk form, and there's no downside to his Hulk form. And so you're not taking those characters and saying, we finally found a way to figure things out. It's more along the lines of smart science man figured out a way to completely kill the other side of him and only get the positives.
So one quick thing. Banner specifically says we worked it out. Like that's but I understand that's what you're thinking and that's how you're putting onto it. I'm just telling you they told us that they worked it out. So I understand what you're saying, but we have to kind of take what they give us, right? I'll throw this out there. There's a lot of theories that we're about to get Hulk back, like plain old standard angry Hulk. A lot of people think that with this whole war, Hulk World War, whatever story that they're setting up potentially with this Sakaar thing, how I kind of envision it happening is Hulk's son shows up and angry Hulk, whatever we want to call him, like the original Hulk, is going to come back because that's his son, not Banner's. You know what I mean? And so I kind of have a feeling that's going to kind of pull that back. So in a way, me personally, again, because I see the Professor Hulk thing as a perfect end for that character, I feel like it is going to be a little weird to, hey, here's this resolution to this character. He doesn't have any problems anymore. Bam, we're taking that away. He's back where he started which I do think the son thing would be an interesting way. Of all the ways they're going to do that, I think that'll be a good way. But
okay, but what makes you think they're even going to do that? We've seen their lineup over the next several years. And do you really think that they'll wait till after that and keep Ruffalo around for that long?
I don't know.
Sideline him?
I don't know.
Like, that's my thing. Like, from a practical standpoint, sure, we can have wishful thinking, and maybe I'm wrong, but it just really seems like they're closing the book on him, and they're doing the passing of the torch thing where it's all on Jennifer now because she has no weaknesses. She has all the strengths and more of the strengths. So what is the point of Bruce anymore? Or, well, of Hulk? There isn't one. The world doesn't need Hulk anymore. And according to Bruce and a lot of the narrative of the MCU, because of all of the collateral, the world never needed a Hulk. The world tried to exist in spite of Hulk. And so I don't think they're ever bringing him back. And I have yet to see anything that acts as proper evidence to think that Hulk is coming back. Because from a storytelling standpoint and from just a practicality standpoint of knowing their lineup coming up and knowing that nothing points towards any kind of emphasis or even inclusion of Hulk, just makes me think that, like, he's going to be a background character at best that just does the science things. Sometimes he'll show up, and if he does, he'll be Bruce with the inhibitor, so they don't have to CGI him. And if they do something with him, it'll probably be in the form of a Age of Ultron kind of deal where the entire situation is introduced and resolved in one movie that didn't get the time that it needed.
Yeah. Your question there was, why do you think that? It's what everybody else is talking about. That's what every review I've heard, listened to that's the thing they've been excited about. Is that Sicarian ship? Is that hinting towards something happening later? So
I think that's grasping at straws. I can understand people theorizing about it, but I think that's a Mephisto thing. Like,
well, my other reasoning too is I would have said the same thing about Kate Bishop and Hawkeye, but after the show, I don't think they're phasing out Hawkeye by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he might not be in everything, but I don't think that character's going anywhere.
See, I don't know if I agree with that, because Hawkeye, the show, definitely felt like it was closing the book on him because he got to bury Ronan. He ended on a good note with his family. And do I think that we'll see Clint Barton again? Yeah, I do. But do I think that we'll see Hawkeye playing a big role in any project moving forward? No. I think that the most we'll see of him is supporting Kate in some way, but Hawkeye, Clint Barton is done. And I don't see them revisiting him in any way other than in a support or mentor role, because Hawkeye's always had one foot out the door.
Mm-hmm.
Like every single time they do a Hawkeye thing, it's like, okay, Hawkeye's done.
Mm.
Like it felt that way in Age of Ultron. It felt that way in Civil War. And then they did the Hawkeye show, and it was like, okay, yeah, this ended a little too well to justify another coming out of retirement. And now that we have another bow wielding character that everybody seems to like better than Clint Barton, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm personally okay. I hate it that we don't get more of Clint Barton, because I love the character of Clint. But the thing is, I love the character of comic book Clint Barton, and the MCU Clint Barton I like, but it's not the same.
Right.
So for me to say like, no, we need more Clint because of comics, it's inaccurate to say, because MCU Clint Barton is completely different. And while I still like him, I think his story is done.
Yeah.
There's just nothing else to do with him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I still, I think, I don't know. If he still is there, even in a support role, like he's still there. You know what I mean? So like, I feel the same way about, I think Hulk and Hawkeye are probably on a similar level. The only thing that might change with Hulk is if Disney / Marvel somehow reacquired the rights to make a Hulk movie. And so maybe that's why they're setting this up here of just like, hey, this is somewhere we can go with Hulk if we do have this. But I don't know. We've seen one episode. This is the one little piece. I don't expect to see Hulk again in this show. I don't expect to see Banner or anything. Maybe in the finale, she goes back to his island and they're partying or whatever like that. Maybe whatever. But back to this show, I liked getting to see Banner. I liked getting to see his lab where he spent time. I really liked the little things that they sprinkled in about him and Tony's relationship. The little scratching in of BB and TS in the bar. I thought that was a nice touch of just, I don't know how much Tony meant to Banner, right? Because we've seen so many people talk about, or not even talk about, but just like have their moment of like missing Tony, or Tony affected my life in this way or that way. So it's I thought that was very nice, because I'm sure we've seen it, but just to see it again in another way with Banner, because they had such a close relationship, I thought was cool. I know, and I guess really to get into this, this is probably the last big thing, right? But so many people have problems with her being able to control her powers, right? That's a big thing that's out here. Courtney's mentioned that a couple times in her quick comments, and I'm sorry we haven't been just jumping into your comments, Courtney. But obviously her being able to just not instantly control, but I guess really kind of instantly control once she kind of had a couple days to figure it out. But
she didn't need the couple days to figure it out.
Yeah. Well,
she was immediately perfect.
Right.
The whole time she was bitching about the fact that Banner was trying to help her, and she was acting like he was mansplaining to her the entire time, and that she didn't need it, even though she just had this super traumatic experience where she realized, wow, my life is different now. She was completely unfazed by it. She was completely unaffected, unharmed on everything, just because.
Yeah.
And that's bad.
Well, I don't know. They didn't play it off that it was super traumatic. She acts like it was not traumatic at all, right? Banner, which I think Banner was expecting a lot worse, right? Like the very first time I guess the first time after he's gotten her into the lab and everything, when she changes, he does the whole like kind of whatever, like treating her like a horse, because he's expecting Hulk, just this angry other person at the wheel. And he even says that he's like, you don't feel like there's someone else with a hand on the wheel. And she's like, no, it's just me. I'm just here or whatever. I'm glad they kind of addressed that, because I think ultimately that's what it really boils down to, is that, and I said this in our stream, so I know you've heard this, Stephen, but that's what I think it really boils down to, is just that Banner and Hulk were created under extreme stress, under abuse from his father. Hulk
is that MCU canon?
Technically, Incredible Hulk is MCU canon, and while they don't do a full origin story, we have flashbacks, and it shows his father doing the experiments on him and abusing him and that sort of thing. And so we have to extrapolate a lot of this, but looking at comics and just how it's supposed to work, Hulk is really more of an alter of Bruce than anything else. A lot like Moon Knight has his alters. Hulk is an alter that was created in a way to protect Bruce and kind of just took on all his anger. And then because of the experiments that were being done to him with Gamma and whatnot that his father was doing, that created the superpowers, right? That Banner has, but like really Hulk controls that side of him. And so that to me, more than anything else, and like there's other arguments that people are making about, and even Jennifer in the show talks about how as a woman she has to control her anger on a day-to-day basis, or else she'll be looked at as emotional or I forget what else she says, but emotional. Like sure, those are arguments. I think they're valid, but even if you don't find validity in that, I really think the argument that makes the most sense is that she doesn't have an alter who's a Hulk, She just has the powers of it.
But at the same time, if they're using the argument of her saying, Flynn, you're fine. If they're using the argument of Jennifer saying her anger is bad enough to where it's comparable to the guy who does have to control his anger on a daily basis, whatever, she is saying my need to control is comparable to yours. But at the same time, they're saying she deals with a lot of trauma, but also she doesn't deal with enough trauma to where she is negatively affected emotionally. They're saying it's really difficult to be a woman, but it's not as difficult as things that Banner went through, but also she puts up with things that Banner puts up with. Like, it's like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, where they're trying to justify why she can do the things, but they're using the very same justification as the reason for her not having the other guy at all. And it doesn't make sense narratively.
I didn't interpret it that way, because there is very clearly that moment, right, where Banner asks, "Do you feel like you have another influence on you?" And she doesn't. Hang on, let me finish, Steven. she doesn't have that influence on her.
But I know you said this.
I'm getting to it. Then there's another moment where later he talks about you've got to control your emotions, you've got to control your anger, and she explains that as a woman, she already has to do that and has been doing that her whole life. And so she's got practice at that, right? So she can control her anger. I don't know that it's ever said that because she has Hulk powers, she has more anger than before. I think it's very clear that just anger and emotion is what activates the Hulk power, and she needs to learn to control that. And she says from the get-go, like, well, cool, I've learned to control my emotions my whole life.
But if she experiences enough in her life to where it warrants the need for emotional control, that is also known as, emotional suppression. So that would imply that much like Banner had to suppress his emotions, which as you're saying, resulted in the creation of an alter, then why did her emotional suppression that she supposedly faces day to day as a woman, someone who feels emotion more strongly, so therefore emotional suppression would be more of a liability, why doesn't she face the same negative consequence that Banner faced when he became Hulk and got the alter? She doesn't have the negative, even though everything is pointing to, using the logic that the MCU has presented, everything points to she should have negatives as well because of the amount of emotional suppression she's had to face in her life. But she doesn't.
I think it is different. Like, I understand what you're saying. I see the connection. I don't think it's been as intense. I don't know how to explain this. Like, I really just don't know. I think Banner. I think the Hulk. I think more so Banner had to suppress that other person, the Hulk. And so that's more of what he was fighting, and emotion was just something that would let that slip. I don't know what to say other than just that as a woman, she's had to control her emotions more. I don't think there's anything that says she's had...
More than what?
More than a man does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which, personally... I find offensive at the insinuation that men don't have emotional struggles of their own, but
No,
I'm
no,
not
no,
going to
no.
have a conversation again.
That's not what it's saying though. It's saying that a man absolutely struggles with emotions. And not that the show says this outright, but just there is the acknowledgement of that. But what this show is trying to do is, and we talked about this too, about how this type of story where a woman has to fight for something that a man can just get or whatever, like that story has been told a lot of times, whatever. But what this show is trying to say that again to potentially a different audience or a new audience who maybe hasn't heard it. But women typically, their experience is completely different from a guy's, where if they are emotional or show any signs of emotion, whereas a man can get angry in a call or in a board meeting or whatever, and sure, maybe people just think, man, that guy's angry or whatever, but like he's the boss, whatever. If a woman does that though, she's emotional. She's, I forget the other words she uses in that specifically, and I'll tell you this, I've had a conversation with Lee Allison after our conversation, Stephen, and was talking to her. Now she studied chemical engineering. And so that's a predominantly male field. No one takes her seriously. She has to be incredibly serious and she is incredibly smart. But she really had like the stuff that happened in this show, like that. She was like, yep, that's 100%. That's what my life is like, having to explain that. No, I really do know what I'm talking about. And I really do know what's going on. This is an experience that other women have and have to deal with. And so
right.
All the show is saying is that she as a woman in a profession where she has to be perfect, or else she won't be taken seriously. And even in the beginning of the show, there's that other guy who's like, I really think I can do this closing argument better or whatever. She's facing that kind of stuff all the time, where a man, simply because they think they're a man or they think they know better, doesn't trust her to do something. Like she's had to keep a level head and press on with all that. So that's all the show, I think, is trying to put forth and show.
That's all it's trying to do, but its execution was poor. I didn't like, and it's littered all throughout the episode, where the point that they're trying to make is said at the expense of another character, just because stories think it's easier to do that when they're like using comparisons, like just using the Thanos Hulk thing again. That was what I would call a sacrificial lamb moment, but I think that was handled well, because it was like Hulk put up a fight, and we've seen how powerful Hulk is, and it's like, this guy means business. Hulk was the one being sacrificed in that sense, but that felt earned, and that's probably a bad example, but that's what I mean by that, to where it is often considered easier and used as a crutch to be able to get your point across when you have an established through line, and you can say, wow, if this person compared to that person, then whew,
Yeah.
And I hate that, because it's always a disservice to one character when you can get those points across so much better and more efficiently when you make it more about the character and their individual struggles separate from someone else, because all you're doing at that point is you're just taking a shortcut. And I'm not arguing saying women don't face problems, blah, 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 blah. I'm arguing that this show is bad. Like, that episode was bad, and it was written poorly, and it used cheap writing gimmicks to take shortcuts, and it did a disservice to a lot of characters and to a lot of messages that it's trying to say. Because to me, it did nothing but say the thing. And I hate it when things just kind of say what is considered common knowledge. And I'm not saying that everybody knows those things, but it is considered common knowledge at this point that women in a professional workplace, especially in law, they deal with that kind of stuff. Okay, yeah, sure. But what are you adding to this story? You're adding nothing. You're just belittling a character that is beloved, that has been through a lot.
So why do you think they're belittling the Hulk? Because I didn't get that at all.
The entire freaking episode, they belittle Hulk.
But why? Just because she can do something and doesn't have to go through the 15-year plan, right? That he had to get her to a better place. Like, I don't see that as a disservice to the Hulk. I mean, his story still stands. He still went through everything he did and got to the place that he did. She just doesn't have to go through all that. And again, the thing, and I'll be honest, I'm hanging my hat on this, is he had to deal with an alter, like a completely separate mental disorder that was hindering him. Yeah,
I get it, but it's not just the I can control my emotions because I'm a woman. It's more so she is literally perfect in every way. Whereas Hulk says, this is what I had to do to get to where I am, where I'm still damaged. Mm-hmm. And she's strutting through the entire episode, just kind of scoffing at his struggle and just like, I don't need this. This is dumb. It's a similar, you know how my dislike for Captain Marvel, in her movie, she was perfect. She did no wrong. She was immediately powerful, taking out a Kree fleet by herself by the end of her own film. And the entire time I watched that, I felt nothing because she did not earn it. I did not feel like it was triumphant. It was just, oh, cool. This person is God tier power level. And what has she really gone through other than being told control your emotions? And you compare that to Thor in Infinity War when he creates Stormbreaker and shows up at Wakanda and says, bring me Thanos. A huge applause, standing ovation for that moment. And I get chills thinking about it, but that is because we've seen what he's been through. We were there with his struggle. That was a character growth moment. So what do you do when you have a character that comes in, not only is perfect, doesn't need any help controlling her powers. She can be Hulk and she can be a lawyer. She can do it all. And then she's also, it'd be like if Captain Marvel showed up and said, you think I need help training my powers just because your brother died? Like it's bad. It's disrespectful. It is sacrificing Hulk. It's sacrificing and belittling Hulk's struggle, he has been constantly struggling just so that she can say how badass she is when we just met this chick 15 minutes ago.
So here's where I think my viewing branched from yours. I don't think she was looking at it as like, look at how badass I am. I'm great.
I don't care how she was looking at it. It's how it was written.
Well, but I think even as it was written, I don't think it was meant to be here's how badass I am. I'm awesome. I don't think she wants from the viewing that I had and how I interpreted it as it was written she says this. She says she doesn't want this power. She wants to just go back and be a lawyer.
Right. Hulk doesn't want his power either.
Right.
But he's stuck with it and he has to deal with the consequence and it deepens him as a person.
Right.
So for her at this point, it's just kind of like, I'm good. I don't need the superhero thing. I'm just going to go be a lawyer again. And she does. And then she's like, I guess I could Hulk and be a hero too. And oh, look, it worked out for me just fine. Like,
no, the episode ended right there. Do you really think, and I know you don't, but like, obviously that when she said, I'm ready to give my closing statements now, they didn't just say, okay, yes, of course, Miss Walters, like, please continue. Like that's going to stop. There's going to be news reports. She is a superhero now, right? Because she didn't want that. So
she's still going to have it all.
So here's the thing, to your point again, man, I've lost the thread because we always, this always happens. We start somewhere and then we go somewhere else. And I had a comment on the original, but,
yes, Lee Allison, they are open to interpretation, and that's how I interpreted it.
So,
but from my standpoint, it is poorly written. Someone can be positively affected by that. Sure, that's fine. But from my perspective, it was lazy and not good.
So the other thing, it's very short. These are 30-minute episodes, so there's not a lot of time. I hope we'll get into more of it as the show goes on. Talking about her being perfect when she got her powers and everything, again, part of Banner's struggle is that he had to war with the Hulk. If Banner didn't have the abuse, say his father was cooperating with him and he was willingly doing these experiments and it happened and he just got the powers, like maybe, Banner would have had to learn how to use them or like learn how to control his emotions or whatever. But he was dealing, I think ultimately the core of, and again, this is what makes Hulk interesting, right? He is having to deal with this other person who has the power, right? Jennifer doesn't have that complexity. So sure, she just gets the powers. So now,
which makes her boring.
yeah, oh, absolutely. I agree. Absolutely. She is not as interesting on that perspective. But what I really think, and I even texted you this after I saw it, I really think this show is going to be about her accepting that she has to be a superhero, and just kind of finding her place of importance in this MCU world where she just wanted to be a lawyer and just be not even like the biggest, best lawyer out there. She just wanted to be a lawyer and help people. And I imagine in the next episode, it's going to be like, there's another Hulk. There's another Hulk. She-Hulk is here. Blah, blah, blah. We're calling her the She-Hulk. Blah, blah, blah. And then, whoever it is that in the commercials is like, I want you to be the head of the superhero lawyer division, or whatever that is. Like, I imagine that's where we're going to kind of get into next episode. And suddenly she's being thrust into this world that she didn't want to have a major part in. She liked gossiping from the side,
but she just wants to be a lawyer. That is all we know about her motivation, is that she wants to be a lawyer that is taken seriously. So based on what you've just said, her career is only going to get heightened by being the Hulk, because she's going to become the head of a defensive superhuman individuals division. So where's her arc?
I don't know. We'll have to see the rest of the show. I would imagine it's going to be that she doesn't want this. She just wanted to be a normal lawyer. She didn't want to be whatever. Now, is this going to end up being a good story? Like, I don't know. I've enjoyed what we've seen so far. Again, they're trying to do this kind of as a sitcom with superheroes. I thought for what it was fine. It was a good episode. So we're just gonna have to see where the rest of it goes.
And to me, I'm look, I say it's objectively bad, but obviously nothing is objectively anything. But to me, from where I stand, I don't see how anyone can. I don't tangibly see the line in which someone can consider this good, and I've yet to really hear everything that you've said. I've just heard it was fine.
Yeah.
Like, but like, I'm more curious. Like, to you, what made it
to
good?
me? What made it good? I really liked the character of Jennifer. I thought she was great. I thought she was. Why? She seemed like a relatable one, especially for women. I think she was probably very relatable. I enjoyed her screen time. She was funny. Again, the fourth wall breaking stuff again, like I was fine with it by the end of the episode, a little weird at the beginning. We don't get very much of her and Nikki, but like their interaction in that courtroom, like before she hulks out, like I was kind of chuckling at that whole moment of like, oh, but I really like this suit. Like, take off your shoes like that. Like, I thought that was funny. That was fine. Again, I like her relationship with her cousin Bruce and how they played that out. I really liked, again, getting to see more of what Banner did, like getting to see the Gamma Lab that we heard about in Endgame, getting to see and hear just a little bit about his relationship with Tony, and it's little things sprinkled in, right? The TS scribbled in. He talks about how, yeah, Tony and I built this bar or whatever. Like, those are all little things, right? But I enjoyed those moments and getting to live through that. Again, the Sicarian ship, I'm really curious what they're doing with that. Even if it's just the Sicarians are looking for Hulk because he was their champion or whatever, and they want Hulk back.
I think that's what it is.
And
I think it's just a red herring.
That could be absolutely either way. I think that's super cool. Like that's a great. Obviously, they lost their greatest champion. They've got to be looking for him. So I think that's super cool. The things that I'm with you. I wish that we just had more time to talk about the Hulk and to see what the Hulk has been going through. I like the story that they have presented, but we've had to get it piecemeal across, 3-4 movies. And it hasn't been really focused on him at any point. It's always been subplots that are happening across the way. But that's what I would say I enjoyed about it. And I think a lot of what I just said is stuff that, hey, hit or miss for you. You know what I mean? A lot of this episode, a lot of
what you said is subjective.
a lot of this stuff, like Banner and Jen talking, just hanging out, and sure they're in Hulk form, but they're ultimately just hanging out. Like, if that's not your cup of tea, then yeah, this show's not going to be for you. And I expect a lot of I'm not expecting like a lot of action intrigue from this show. I'm expecting more like more of a
order with superheroes and jokes. Like, that's what it's going to try to be.
Yes.
If it does that, I think that's the best move it can make. But all I'm saying is that right now, episode 1, as a standalone piece of media, was bad because the flaws that it had, the mistakes and missteps that it took, were way more than anything good that it did. They overshadowed the good, because to me, the good was just kind of things that you expect from any show that has any level of competency in being created. Like the things that you said you laughed at, I thought they were just kind of like, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, there's the joke, but I didn't laugh because it just wasn't that funny to me. But I'm not saying that it was not objectively funny, because obviously that doesn't exist.
Right.
I'm just saying that the little bits of good that I saw in this were not enough for me to say, oh, She-Hulk, that's a good show. I'm excited about this. The episode I watched, I walked away from that thinking they don't know how to maintain plot. What's the word I'm looking for? Pacing, plot pacing. They don't know how to write characters well. They're leaning on a lot of crutches and devices that typically in media are a really bad sign when something leans on it too much. There was just a lot of stuff that I saw that and I was like, if this is what we get for the rest of this show, this is bad. And I think it's going to maintain that level of quality? No. Everything that everyone has said about it so far says that the show is going to get better. But this episode specifically, it was bad.
Yeah.
And I'm not outright saying She-Hulk bad show. That's why I'm specifically saying She-Hulk episode 1 was the worst episode of Marvel television I've ever seen, because it just did a lot of things wrong. And the things that it did well were overshadowed by those things. And I just don't think it did enough or gained itself enough credit to compliment it. I think that at best we should be saying, let's give it more time. Like, I can understand watching an episode of Marvel television. Hawkeye's a good example. I saw episode 1 of Hawkeye and I was like, yes, this is going to be great. I'm on board with this. But then again, I said the same thing about Loki. And look where we landed on Loki. I hate that show. So Marvel has shown that they're really inconsistent with television. That's probably the most consistent thing that they've been with their shows, is that if a show starts off really strong, most of the time it ends up sucking in the last 2 episodes or latter half. Falcon and Winter Soldier was kind of gripping at first, and then it just got worse every single episode. Loki, when it took a turn to focus more on Sylvie and kind of lose the plot, that's when it got bad. WandaVision did a fantastic job at building itself up, and it just didn't really stick the landing. But it was still a good show. Yeah. But I just think, and who knows, maybe because She-Hulk had such a catastrophically bad episode, in my opinion,
it can only go up, right?
It can only go up. Right, exactly. So maybe it's going to be the opposite. Loki, when I saw the first episode, I was like, oh, this
could be cool. Yeah.
This is going to be great. Maybe because episode 1 of She-Hulk was so bad, in my opinion, maybe I'm going to be like, man, that was that last episode of She-Hulk, best episode of Marvel television.
Let's hope. Yeah. And I think ultimately I agree with you there. Absolutely. 100%. It's this 30 minutes too is like no time at all. And there's so much, especially at this point, there's so much going on in the universe. And it's really hard, I think. And I think Marvel is starting to fall apart at the seams here because it's gotten so big. Like there's so much going on, and especially like important things, and not to like diminish anything that's happening in this show, but just like we still don't technically know, other than just we've heard Kevin Feige say this is where we're going. We still don't technically know a whole lot about Kang the Conqueror and like what's happening there. There's a lot.
Just know that he exists somewhere.
Right.
A lot of somewheres.
There's so many big things that are happening that we're not getting answers to, that I think it makes things like this that try to hone in so frustrating. But it's on the flip side, like that's why I love these so much. The little moments, like the moment with the scribbling TS, and I know I keep mentioning that, but like that moment, if that's all we get out of this episode that was good, I thought it was worth it to have just that tiny little sprinkle of something focused on Hulk, Maybe
it's just me, I'm glad they did that to where
Mhm.
it was like, okay, cool. We're remembering that Tony and Banner
Mhm.
had a relationship. They were friends, but I thought that moment could have been handled so much better. It has everything to do with Ruffalo's delivery. And
Mhm.
maybe it's just the way he talks.
Mhm.
Cause like I haven't really experienced him giving authentic emotion since probably the first Avengers movie.
Right.
But he just has this way of talking where he's just like, yes, me and Tony, we were really good friends.
Yeah.
We made a
Uh-huh.
bar
Uh-huh.
together. Like, you know, like it's just
I
like
know. I totally get that. I totally get that.
to me, it was like I didn't really feel the emotion of that. I feel like the only emotion felt in that scene was coming from the attachment to the characters. So just even mentioning the name Tony Stark, that's really all you have to do, and then the fans can put in the rest.
Mhm.
So to me, I have a hard time crediting the show for that because to me, it's more so like that's just a credit to the MCU as a whole when all they have to do is show the letters T and S, and it's an emotional moment for us because of how much Tony Stark did.
Mhm.
So to me, it's like I have a hard time crediting the show for it because it didn't really work for that. The MCU did.
It was, yeah, it got a tiny payoff from 10, 10, 12
Right.
years of other stuff. So, but
But like
anyway,
something like Bucky,
mhm.
his brainwashing getting broken.
Mhm.
Like that's one of those moments in Falcon and Winter Soldier, probably my favorite moment in the entire show.
Mhm.
The way Sebastian Stan performed that moment
Mhm.
was just my heart, you
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
it was the context of knowing because of all this MCU stuff we've seen, and he's a character that's always been on the run from people trying to kill him or a side of himself that he can't control, similar to the
Right.
Hulk. Like there's that similar level of character struggle, and to see like it could have been very very much like Bucky says to Sam, "The Wakandans helped me break my mind control," and it would have
Mhm.
been like, "Oh wow, that's a huge moment." But to show the moment where he realizes he has full control of himself, and to see Sebastian Stan just emotionally break, that
Mhm.
was beautiful.
Yeah. Mhm.
But Ruffalo just
Yeah.
yeah, me and Tony.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, those moments are like so not comparable, right?
Right, right.
But
But they both hit,
yeah.
but one just hits way harder because it has the benefit of both MCU context and character performing.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and see, like, how cool would it have been if we had that moment between him and Hulk? You know what I mean? Where
Mhm.
Hulk, assumedly, like you were saying earlier, they didn't really merge. Hulk just went away.
Mhm.
Like, how cool would that be to have the moment where the Hulk is like, "I smash no more," or like whatever it had been,
Right,
Like
absolutely. Like
could have been
something
so cool, but oh well.
something to where we get to see or hear the last piece of Hulk
Mm-hmm.
in a moment where we actually are aware that it's the last time we're seeing Hulk. Because
Right.
I think that's the reason Infinity War in hindsight that moment hits a little bit less comfortably, because when we saw Hulk get completely bodied by Thanos, it was like, oh shoot, no one had a problem with it because it was like, this makes sense. This is the guy we're supposed to be afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
But now looking back, thinking Hulk's
Literally,
last showing was him getting absolutely bodied.
well,
Like,
and even further than that, it's Banner saying, "Get out here, fight," and him screaming, "No." So, like, if you think about it, like the last thing we heard Hulk say was
was
no.
pussing out.
Was
Yeah.
well, no,
Last,
yeah.
like, and that's where I'm like,
In hindsight, yeah, that sucks. Yeah.
in hindsight, it sucks. And am I saying that the moment in Infinity War was bad? No, it was great, and I think it was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But anything we do with Hulk moving forward, you got to consider those things.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we're gonna keep doing this Professor Hulk thing, you got to understand that every single time we see that guy, actual Hulk fans,
Mm-hmm.
their eyes roll
Yeah.
and they groan, because I have not seen a single fan of the character of Hulk who likes Professor Hulk. Anyone who's okay with Professor Hulk is someone that never liked Hulk in the first place, and he's always been a side character to them,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, haha, another person to make funny jokes and to hand Ant-Man tacos. Like,
Yeah.
so they're doing fans of that character a disservice. And I'm not even a huge fan of the Hulk, but I have always thought the character, like the concept of the character, is very interesting, and he has a lot of fans out there who are just chomping at the bit to see him get his moment,
Yeah.
or to see him get treated correctly. And it's just, this ain't it, Chief.
What I hope is that maybe in the next Avengers movie, which I realize is several years away, maybe we will get a really a good ending for some of the remaining Avengers that are, like you're saying, being phased out. I would love to see some sort of sacrificial. Like the Tony's ending. While there's so many other ways that could have gone, and we still have a Tony Stark, it was a great closing for his arc, right? Even looking back to the first Avengers movie where he and Cap are like yelling at each other, and it's like you're the one not to make the sacrificial play. He makes the sacrificial play. It's like you're not the one. You're what's special about you? You came out of a bottle. He wields Mjolnir. Like great closing moments for those two characters, and now they're gone. And it kind of leaves this weird space for the other heroes that are left, but are still kind of like phasing out. Like Black Widow, okay, like she's just gone. Like we had that movie, but that movie happening in the past, like I don't know that it did much more for that character. Like I hate that was just her end. And then you pile that on top of like real world things that were happening where like her movie didn't even get to release theatrically. It got delayed so many times because of COVID. Like just ultimately a disservice to that character and Scarlett Johansson being that character for so long. Like I hope, Thor. Like where are we with Thor? I haven't seen Love and Thunder yet, so I don't. To my knowledge, he's not done, right? But he's.
Well, I will say this regarding that. No spoilers. Taika Waititi and Chris Hemsworth both said they were shocked when they saw it in the credits at the end of Love and Thunder when it said Thor will return. So if that gives you any idea, Thor's not really in a great place.
Right. Well, and like again, the whole kind of miracle of the first, I guess the Infinity Saga, if you want to just wrap it up in that, right? The miracle of that is that they had these actors for so long, right? Like, these kind of long stretching careers are rough. I mean, even like looking at Hugh Jackman, right, playing Wolverine for so many years, like. And getting Logan, what a great ending for his character, right? But like that's a long thing to have to do for so long. And the fact that they were able to keep these folks through this saga is great. I just think now we're at the end of that where people like Ruffalo, people like I'm blanking on the guy who plays Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner, like they've been doing this just as long as Iron Man and as Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans had been, now longer, right? Like what happens to those like obviously they're not going to want to. I would assume that they're not wanting to do this forever. So eventually they're going to have a close. Like, can we at least just try to give them something, a good way to go out? Like, and I don't know how you fit that into a movie coming up, but that's not like an end of saga, movie. Yeah. But at the same time, like you talking about Clint, like you don't think we'll see Clint in anything more than a support role moving forward. Like I hate that because I'm not as familiar with the comic book character, so I do love this MCU Hawkeye because he is.
I love the MCU Hawkeye.
Oh, I know you meant that, but you were just saying the comic book is like your standard, and then
I adore comic book Hawkeye.
Absolutely, yeah. But like all that to say, like if he just kind of like he phases out, like I personally like I just hate that's how he ends. Same with Hulk, I think. And again, I really think his whole arc should have ended with Professor Hulk, and I don't know exactly where he would have gone or done or whatever, but he should be wherever Cap is right now, on the moon or wherever he actually is. Like, I just...
breaking the laws of time travel established in the same film where he breaks them.
Exactly, yeah. I don't know. Regardless, I hope they'll give these characters a better out than what we've seen.
And the thing is, considering Steve got a great exit. Tony got a great exit. Black Widow, she had a great exit too. Like the whole thing of you need to let me go. I can finally like do something, like wipe out all the red, do something that'll result in saving of everybody.
Yeah.
Like someone who has had a long life as a trained killer who's lost person after person, for her to go out taking an action
to save somebody she really cares about.
To save everyone.
Yeah, and then ultimately everybody.
That's a great send off for her. And her movie should not have happened after Endgame. It really should have been released around the time that it happened chronologically. But her send off, still, it was Endgame, and it was great.
Yeah.
Hawkeye, like I said, every single time Hawkeye shows up, I'd walk away from it thinking, I'm probably okay if this is the last time I see him, because at least, except for, well, I guess he wasn't sent off with his family being dusted. But he's always, wanting to be a family man. And we always see him at the end of something he does with his family and just ready to retire. So it's like any send off with Hawkeye, aside from the one at the end of Civil War, would be fine.
Yeah.
So really the thing is, like, Hulk and Thor, like, they are the ones that you just really need to either decide you're going to do big things with these characters, or you're going to let them ride off in the sunset, like, because they deserve it, both of them do.
Yeah.
And so with Thor, for them to intend, honestly, I will say this: if his story had ended with Love and Thunder, I would have been okay with it, because of where it ends up. It ends up in a very cliche place, taking a plot point that Disney loves to use. Well, really everyone loves to use to death right now. I'm not going to say what it is, but if that was his send off, I would have been like, cool. He is in a better place than he was. Like, he's finally at peace, and he has purpose, and he's not just constantly losing people.
Yeah.
I would have been okay with that, but he's not done. They're bringing him back for something, apparently. And so with Hulk, they just really need to either make their intentions with him very clear, or they just need to let him go. And I honestly, I don't think they're going to let him go. The fact that he showed up at the end of Shang-Chi shows that either they had Ruffalo on set or on a Zoom call for a day, or they have plans for him.
Yeah.
And I think that they're going to use him as a transitional character, to where he's going to show up in Kang Dynasty, possibly die, maybe. So maybe he'll get his moment there. But if he doesn't go out with more of a resolution, like, if he goes out in the way he is as Professor Hulk, and he just kind of exists in the way he is now until then, and he just kind of dies, that's not going to be good enough for me. Because to me, I know you said Professor Hulk seemed like the perfect closing of his arc, but to me, like I said, they didn't merge. He just suppressed a side of him, and that doesn't come off to me as a means of making peace with the other side. It just comes off as Banner won.
Yeah. Well, and actually, as you said that, the image of him snapping kind of came to my brain. And there's that moment right when he puts the glove on, or I guess when he's prepping, they're like, I think Tony was like, this thing's going to give off a ton of gamma radiation. Like, I don't know that any of us can handle it. And even Thor is like, I can do it.
Beg for it.
I can do it. Let me do it. And it's like, buddy, you've got to be like 100% here. Like, you can't have a wrong thought. Yeah. And like, suddenly it's like
it has to be me.
It has to be me.
It's like I was born for this or
something. Yeah. And like that moment really was the perfect close for him. Like, and honestly, thinking about it now, like, I hate that they healed his arm in this episode, because that would be the perfect wrap, right? His arm's messed up. It won't heal as a human. It won't heal as a Hulk. He's not at 100%. Like, sure, maybe he could be in a fight if absolutely needed, but he's not 100% there. He did his thing. He brought everybody back, right?
Right.
Man, now I'm sitting here mad that's not that was a perfect end for him.
That's what I'm saying though. Like, just taking it back to She-Hulk, it is an isolated episode of television, but it's not. Like, I can judge it as an episode of television, but ultimately, because I'm a story guy, I'm a big picture guy when it comes to the MCU, I am judging it as an individual episode, as well as
a part of this whole universe,
as a piece of Marvel media. And because of decisions it makes, like, it rapid fired so many things with Hulk, with the inhibitor, with the arm, with the blood, just like all that stuff was just like, no. Like, it was so many things that just felt like they hit Control Z on
Mm-hmm.
so much Hulk stuff and just undid things. And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, where it's like the things that this show did that was either fine or good was not enough to overshadow these just blatant retcons that were disrespectful to the character's arc or to where he could have ended off.
Yeah. I think ultimately that's going to, and I know we've said this and we need to wrap with that, this comment here, but ultimately it's going to depend on what do they do from here, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they are Control Zing, as you put it, and retconning a lot of great development with Hulk and Banner, if they undo all of it, there better be a great resolution coming down the line. And I just hope they at least commit to doing that if that's what they're, working towards and prepping for. So,
and I'm going to watch it.
Like, so you are going to watch it. That was my other question. You're going to watch this weekly.
I'm going to keep up with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm here for Matt Murdock.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But like, to me, like, and I've said this before with a lot of things. Right now, this is how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if that changes.
Yeah.
And I am fully aware and fully knowing, and I know I probably push a lot of buttons because I speak very passionately and strongly, but that is coming out of a place of, I'm not saying your opinions are wrong. I am saying this is how I felt about this thing. Can I be proven wrong? Absolutely. And in a lot of ways, I hope to be proven wrong. Do I hope She-Hulk is good? Yes, but I hope it gets there legitimately and not through lazy, tired, overdone cliches.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what was appealing about this episode to a lot of people was that. Like, it switched the writing game to easy mode, and a lot of people are falling for it and not considering bigger implications or the way it got to where it is. And so I'm hoping She-Hulk's good, but I hope it does that through legitimately good character writing, through good world building, and through good story. And even if the CGI is bad and her hair being straightened when she hulks doesn't make any sense whatsoever, that I don't care about that. I care about story because this is the MCU. And the reason that most of us are still here is because of story, because these characters have made such an impact. And so I will judge this thing as a whole based on the cultural impact and the story impact that the MCU has had. And so because it's part of that, I hope it's good. I'm always rooting for these things. I wanted Captain Marvel to be good, believe it or not. But it just wasn't. And so I'm not the guy over here, and I'm sure it seems like it. But I'm not the guy over here that's just crossing my arms saying this has a girl in it, so it's bad. That's not me at all, believe it or not. I actually love pop culture, and I loved Marvel before they started losing their minds. And I love to enjoy things. And I'm not always looking to crap on people's good time. If I ever am, I apologize. Just let me know and let's talk about it. Really, the thing is that I enjoy conversation about these things too much. So I tend to come off as someone that shuts people out, probably. But that's never my intention.
No, absolutely. And I know that. And I appreciate you saying that to the audience as well. But I'm right there with you. I mean, we had a really interesting conversation about Hulk just now, but like, that's the stuff that I think a lot of criticism of the show is going to get lost in people assuming, well, some people having that opinion of girlies in the show is bad, whatever.
Well, there are those people out there, and they're complete morons.
Exactly, yeah. And I think so. Because of that, I think any legitimate criticism, which I think we do have here, like there are some of the things they've done with Hulk. Again, I didn't see it as them putting Hulk down. Like I didn't see it so much as Jen was belittling what Banner went through. But I do agree with a lot of your points of like, why are they undoing this thing for Hulk? Why are we not diving more into this fusion and what that really means? And there's a lot of other stuff that they're not going into that are legitimate criticisms, and I would completely agree with you there. So yeah, definitely. I hope those criticisms don't get overshadowed by those voices that are, just have shallow, the
Which is
hair thing,
why, right. I try to bring these criticisms up, the ones that I think are legitimate criticisms. That's why I spend such a little time nitpicking.
Right.
Whatever it was that I said before, where I was like, I'm not going to talk about that, but it's there. Like that's a nitpick. I don't focus on those things. I try to bring up legitimate things because I do believe that there is either an abundance of it's very hard to find people that are well even kiltered, that can look at something, especially in pop culture, people that can look at something and say, here's what I liked, here's what I disliked, here's where we are.
Yeah.
You either have people who are just like, this show is great because it's progressive and they make funny joke, like just the people that don't really care about negatives, they don't care about plot holes, they just take what Marvel feeds them and they eat it because Marvel fed it to them. And then you have the people over here who are just like, wow, the CGI is awful, 0 out of 10. Wow, she's a woman who beat a man in a competition, that's so unrealistic. Like all the just vitriolic pieces of garbage. Like, so there's these two sides, and those two sides always dominate the conversation. And so I try to find myself right here, where I am looking at something objectively. And what do I see here on both sides? And I try to speak that out. And if I ever come off as over here too much, please call me out on it, because those people are losers and I never want to be that loser. Because I know that oftentimes in fits of like exaggeration for comedic sake, or just like something can just annoy me enough to where I probably can come off in such a way to where
we are very passionate about all this stuff, and so it emotions run high easily. So let's just say let's be glad me and Steven are not Hulks. Okay, that's all I'll say, especially me. So.
And we're not women, so we can't
can't control it. So there you go. All right, I think we've gone long enough. I think we just spent an hour on that conversation alone. So
I figured.
So yeah, no, that's partly why I wanted it to kind of be towards the end. But I'm glad Courtney, you got to be here for that. I'm sure you're gone by now, but either way, glad you got to be here for that. So anyway, we'll see. I think that's ultimately the big question is we'll see. Let's see how the show goes. Let's see what they do. Let's see what they say. And we'll have more to talk about it. So I imagine we'll probably talk about it again towards the end, like maybe on a stream. We'll chatter about episodes, but probably at the end we'll give kind of a full review. But we'll see if crazy things are happening, we might do.
If
do
it's
more
extraordinarily good or extraordinarily bad, you'll hear from us again before the final episode.
Yeah, I imagine in streams like we'll really talk more about it more commonly. But anyway, moving on. I'll jump quickly to Roller Dome.
Is it Roller Dome or Roller Drome?
That's a great.
I thought it was Drome.
You are probably right. I suck at names, so
it is Drome.
Roller Drome.
Yes.
So the way I would describe this is if Tony Hawk roller skated instead of skateboarded. That doesn't sound right, but you know what I'm saying. And then shot people while doing tricks. That's what this game is. So. It kind of caught me off guard originally because I thought it was going to be a multiplayer thing. I guess in the trailers, I didn't really identify the bullet time that was happening.
It kind of hits like, what is it, roller derby?
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
Like you see like that, and it's easy to like draw that comparison just because the other one exists.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, but it's a single player game where the main gameplay is you are a skater. You're in this life or death game for money.
Tony Hawk meets Max Payne. I just did it.
Thank you.
That's what it is.
That's exactly yes. So
I was trying to think, what shooter is this like, and it was Max Payne.
That's it. Yeah. So anyway, you're this character, Kara Hassan. You are a competitor, a newcomer, a rookie in this competition, and like there's some story happening. There's 4 sections of the story. And Oh my gosh, yes, I have seen the Squirrel
Yes,
Gun
Austin.
game, Austin. Very excited about it.
It's not going to be good, but my God, it's going to dominate
It's
the memes for
it's
so
gonna
long.
be Goat Simulator with a gun, okay? And I'm sure Goat Simulator even has guns, so it's just gonna be Squirrel Simulator.
It's
You know what I mean?
it's going to exist. It's going to dominate the memes for a month, and then people are going to be like, remember that
But it wasn't good.
squirrel gun game that we played for one thing, and we're like, wow, this is bad.
This is
Man,
bad. Yeah.
games.
So anyway, there's a little bit of story going on. There's 4 sections, like 4 like levels, I guess. Well, not levels. That's not a good way to put it. 4 sections. There's the entry games, the semis, the finals, and then the championship match. And those are all separated into like 4 quadrants. But at the beginning of each quadrant, you get to explore different areas in like the world. That you start in the locker room. You kind of look around. You can look at like other competitors' stuff. You kind of start to get a little bit of the story in the beginning, and it basically just kind of boils down to corrupt corporation is using the games to distract people from other nefarious things that they're doing. And do you want to be a part of that, or do you want to maybe join the resistance? And like, you never outright join the resistance or anything like that. You don't really have a lot of dialogue choice, but there's just kind of, I'd give it like a 4 or a 3 out of 10. Like, from a story, like there's not a ton happening. It's just kind of some seasoning to what you're doing. But you come to this for the gameplay. Let me tell you, it's a blast. I
would have been completely blown away, caught off guard if you had said this game's story is great just by looking at what I've seen. So that's good. It's good to hear that my mind isn't going to be blown, because like I saw it, I was like, if there's a story here, there is no way that it's the takeaway.
It's not it's one of those things that like it's there, and like I don't count that as a detriment to it or a bonus to it, because it really just doesn't affect anything. Like
it's what gets you into the gameplay.
It's the set dressing. It's the set dressing. Yes. It's here's why I'm shooting people in this arena.
It's the road
with
on
half
which
pikes.
You get to drive the nice car.
Exactly. There you go. That's exactly it.
It's necessary, but you don't remember the road unless if it's catastrophically bad.
You need a GPS to navigate, but whatever. Anyway, the gameplay is where I'd really say it shines. I'm not the biggest fan. I'd love to see what you thought of this, Steven, next time we're like together. If I have my PlayStation with me, I'd love for you to just try it. Because I'm not. I've dabbled with some of the Tony Hawk games. Like, I don't know how any of that's supposed to feel or supposed to be. But as somebody who doesn't play a lot of that, I felt like this was very easy to get into. You're kind of the what you're trying to do, right? You're trying to get through all these levels. You've got to kill all the enemies that are trying to kill you, but you've also got to accumulate points by doing tricks. And so basically, like, getting a kill gives you some time, like maybe 100 points, but it starts a multiplier. And so kind of my strategy throughout would be do a trick, kill somebody, do a trick, kill somebody, and try to keep that multiplier going throughout the whole thing. And so you've got to get a certain score to pass to move on to the next place. There's a lot of challenges in the game. You have to succeed at a bunch of the challenges, and it's stuff like collect all the multiplier tokens, kill 3 enemies with a grenade launcher, like whatever. And so that's kind of what you're doing. You're doing tricks. And I thought, again, tricks, I thought it was super easy to do. Like, basically it's you have square for like a grab. So like grabbing your ankle or like whatever. And then you had triangle for grind. And so you could just press those and you'll do the standard, but then it's all directional, right? So if I jump up in the air, hit grab and forward, I'll do a certain type of grab. If I hit forward twice, I'll do a different type of grab.
It's Tony Hawk.
Yeah. So
squares the flip moves, circles the grab moves, triangles the grind moves.
Yeah, so you press R1 in this, and that releases basically puts you on a gimbal, and you can suddenly spin however. But one thing that I liked, especially as somebody who is not used to those games, there is no fail. So like I could go up in the air, do one move is called a coffin, where you just act like you go like this and you're straight, boarded,
Yep.
and you can flip and do whatever, and like you could land horizontal, like falling on your face, hit the ground, and your character just automatically does a roll and keeps going. So there's not like
That's not fun. And Tony Hawk, you leave a trail of blood. You feel the break of your leg.
you feel it, yeah. There's none of that.
It hurts when you blunder.
There's none of that. It's very forgiving. You just keep going. And so for me, again, somebody who has not really played those, I liked that because there's so much happening in this game, and that would maybe be the one like detriment. There is so much hitting you at one time. Like at a certain point, there's snipers in some early stages. Then eventually they introduce some guys that shoot beams, like laser beams at you. They later introduce people that are shooting rockets at you. So at any given time, you could have 3 people about like prepping their laser to shoot at you, 4 snipers about to hit you, and then 20 rockets are coming your way. And like you've either got to dodge, shoot the rockets, shoot the shooter. Like there's a lot happening, and you're trying to do tricks. So like what I ended up doing is I played through the whole story with no assistance, no whatever. But they actually have assists, like modifiers that you can put on. The 2 main ones that I used was invincibility and then no limit to bullet time. And so
you cheated.
Well, yeah. So I played through the whole game and beat it normally without that. But then, like to go back for trophies and stuff, I hit those. Now, when you beat the main game, it unlocks basically a new game plus, if you want to think of that. It's the same levels. It's like in the story. And this is literally all it is. There's a blurb at the beginning that says, "The next year, Kara-san returns as reigning champ, but they've taken they've upped the ante to be the bloodiest roller drome of the century or something." And so like basically you play through all the levels again, but all the enemy types are there and you have all your weapons. And you have a cool black jumpsuit as opposed to the red one that you play in the main game. So I played through all of that with cheats, and I don't know. I mean, major skills to anybody who can like legitimately do that. But anyway, I platinumed it today. A lot of fun. I think the biggest compliment I can give this is I got to a certain point in the story and I kind of hit like a ceiling of like my skill level, or what I thought was my ceiling. I definitely hit like a wall. And I just kind of thought, you know what, this has been fun. I don't know that I want to like really try to figure this out. And so I put it down for the night and really thought I was putting it down, like just done with it.
Yeah.
I dreamt about the game all night long. Like I woke up, or I dreamt like doing the tricks, and just like, you know how it is when you've had like a really good game play experience and you just like think about how good that felt to do that thing or whatever. Like, I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but like I've had that with a couple other games where like Destiny, actually, like shooting the bow in Destiny, it feels really good. And so stuff like that, like it just kind of hooks you. And so I gave it another try. I ended up beating that thing that I had kind of gotten stuck on, and I pushed through and got to the end. I kind of had it kind of just clicked for me, like that kind of the thing I was saying about do tricks, keep your multiplier going. Like that's the key to beating everything, and getting all the multiplier tokens. Like that's it just kind of all clicked, and so I kept going. But anyway, that's the biggest compliment I can give it. And I'll be honest with you, Steven, this is in the running right now for that best trophy list of the year. It was a challenging list, but at the same time, they let you use those assists to get the trophies and stuff. So I appreciate that it didn't waste my time, but it was still challenging, even with those assists. So I really liked it. It was really, really fun. So if you're somebody who likes those Tony Hawk kind of games and you've seen the trailers and think like the addition of having, trying to shoot people and like combat with that, if you think that'd be interesting, I recommend it for sure. And then obviously if you're a trophy hunter, it's a great trophy list.
Austin, make a bowgun build. I do not have the monopoly on bowgun builds. Bowguns are a lot of fun. You should do it. Hit me up if you have any questions. I love light bowgun in World. It was probably my best weapon.
Yeah.
So go for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if Roller Drome comes to Game Pass or goes on sale for really cheap, I'm definitely going to play it. But I'm just trying to be very picky with my game purchases right now.
No, I totally understand that, and honestly, if it hadn't reviewed so well, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
It was very much an impulse buy for me. I had listened to a couple reviews, and I was like, it really, when I heard it was single player, that's when it really kind of recaught my attention because I assumed it was going to be a PvP thing.
Right.
But anyway, so really good.
A couple things. One, I remembered another thing I didn't like about She-Hulk, but it's really quick and just for laughs.
Okay.
Hulk literally got beaten by a car.
Oh, in the wreck, the initial wreck.
No, like when she's like,
when she drives away,
go, and he's like, I'm not moving, and then she just runs him over. That's it. That's all I'm gonna like. I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw that and I was like, oh yeah, I hated that too. So yeah.
I assumed it was because it was his car, and he didn't want to hurt his car, so he just let it hit him and take him instead of grabbing it and like throwing it or whatever. But anyway,
I assume it's because the writers hate him.
There you go. That could be it too.
Other thing I just saw, and I'm only bringing this up because I literally just saw it, and we all knew the Game Awards was coming back, but the Game Awards date is December 8th.
I said that.
I did not hear you say that.
That's okay, but we're gonna watch it.
We are.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be a great time.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to talk about, just as far as like catching up on stuff, I finally sat down and watched Lightyear, which is the like the real person behind Buzz Lightyear story. The movie that Andy watched, right? That made
fictional film that took place in the universe of another fictional film in which the fictional character of Buzz Lightyear was based on in the fictional universe of Toy Story.
There you go. Exactly. That I watched that, and it was kind of going into it. I had heard, I wouldn't even say mixed reviews, but just like meh reviews. Like most people were just like, it's fine, it's whatever. So I kind of went in with that in mind. And while I wouldn't argue that it's like one of my favorite or like the best Pixar film ever, like I think it's much better. I think it's better than meh. I think it's. I've seen worse Pixar movies. Is what I guess I'm getting at.
Is it fine or is it good?
I would say. I would say it's.
Implies,
I would say it's good.
Okay. So fine implies the lack of like it wasn't bad, but good implies that it was better than not bad.
Yeah. No, it was better than not bad. It was good. I think the core message of the movie is about not letting your mistakes like rule your life. Basically, we can make mistakes and we can move on. And really fixating on like fixing your mistake can be unhealthy. Which, as somebody who's an Enneagram 2, the helper, the fixer, like that was a really interesting, cool message, important message for me to personally hear of just like, it's okay to let these things go. Like, not everyone is going to hold this against you. And so there's that thread that kind of plays throughout, and Buzz makes a pretty major mistake that affects a whole colony of space explorers. And he grapples with that mistake while everyone else just kind of accepts it and moves on. Kind of the cool thing, and this is spoilers if you haven't seen it at this point. I feel like it's been spoiled for you, but Zurg is actually an older Buzz from a different timeline. A Buzz that returned after finally fixing his mistake to a group of people who, at this point, and years have passed. Right? He's been trying to fix this mistake. Basically, did you see the movie, Steven?
No.
So basically, he crashes their ship initially, breaks their hyperdrive crystal, right? Whatever powers their hyperdrive, and they don't have another one, so they're going to have to fabricate one. And to fabricate one, they have to test it. So he tests it the first one they make. And when he comes back, 15, he just shoots off planet, goes around a local sun, and comes back. And for him, it happens in a minute. For them, it's 15 years when he gets back. And so, his people, like friends, have aged. Like they thought he died. Like whatever. They come back. They explain that, and even at that first instance, they're like, "Well, we tried. It's not worth you losing 15 years, though. Like." We're settling here. Like this is our planet now. We're gonna live here. We're gonna deal with all this, whatever. But Buzz trying to fix his mistake, and understandably so. Like I think if I did a first try, I'd definitely want to do a second try. Right? He tries it again. He does like 60 or 70 years worth of trying. Now for him, it's 7 times or whatever. But basically, he eventually comes back, and the person who he came here with has died and has lived a whole life without him. And the person who takes her place, she was kind of the commander. He's like, yeah, we're done. Like, we're not going to try this. Like, and like at this point, there's a city, right, built on this planet. Like they have everything they need. They're good. He's just like, yeah, it's not worth, like, we're not putting the effort towards this, whatever. Anyway, Buzz makes one more attempt, and he actually figures it out. He gets it right. The who ends up being Zurg, that Buzz, when he returned, he was like, guys, I figured it out. And they jail him, or they want to jail him. They want to arrest him. They're like, you stole something. You did this wrong. Like, we're arresting you. So he left, went further into the future, got all this tech, and then came back basically to go back further in time to fix his initial mistake. So, like, here's a Buzz who literally spent 70 years trying to fix this mistake. And the Buzz in the movie that we see, he gets to basically see what he's turning into, right? And so it was a cool parallel. I think as far as like action scenes and like, I don't know if you they kind of there's a lot of comparisons, I think, in the fact that like this is the movie that Andy watched. Like I've heard it said like this is Andy going to see Star Wars. You know what I mean? And like maybe that like having that level of hype built to it was wrong because it definitely is not Star Wars. Like it's like I said, it's a good movie. I don't think we'll see a sequel. I don't know that we'll ever get another one of these things. Like after seeing this, I honestly would be cool with like a Woody's Roundup. Like let's see who inspired Woody, you know? And I'd really love it if they especially like really dive into kind of like that old Western style, you know, and not make it like look realistic, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'd be up for something like that after seeing this. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it just didn't wow me. You know, it's good. It's an enjoyable movie. I'd recommend it for somebody to watch, especially, you know, with your kids or whatever. But it's definitely not just like the Pixar movie you've got to see, you know. It definitely doesn't have like the emotion that like a Toy Story 3 has, right? Where Andy gives his toys away or anything like that. So
right.
It's but it was good. That's I guess really what I came here to say is like if you've heard that it's bad, you've heard wrong. It's at least a good movie that has a good message, is well made. Like I mean, the scenes look cool. I know you're not a big fan of Socks, the little cat, and I totally agree with you that's just somebody at a marketing level was like, hey, put a cat
top level, put a cat in it, it'll sell billions.
Put a cat in it, but like Socks is great. Socks is a cool character in there. It's good. It's better than you maybe have heard. It is. So if you haven't seen it, I'd say go see it, especially if you're a Pixar fan. If you like Buzz, there are some cool moments like seeing him become the Buzz we know, right? Like when he starts off, he doesn't have the wings, he doesn't have the laser hand, he doesn't have some of the tech that like we know of from the toy. But those moments all happen, right? So like there's a moment where he needs a weapon, he grabs a wrist gun and throws it on and starts using it or whatever. It's a laser, you know, still, but it's like it's very obviously just like something strapped to him.
So does he become the Star Command obsessed Space Ranger that like does he become Toy Story 1 Buzz?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So there's a great moment where he gets his wings. It's kind of like a last ditch effort thing. He gets his wings. So that was a cool moment. At the time, it's like a backpack that he uses. He's Star Command obsessed from the get go. Like when the show starts, he is a space ranger. This is what he's trained for. This is his life. He does the whole narrating thing from the very beginning. I'm sure you've seen that in trailers. By the end, there is a new branch of Space Command that is about helping local planets with any potential problems or invasions or things like that. And Buzz is put in charge of that. And at the end, he debuts with the suit that we know, right? Obviously, in the trailers and stuff in the movie, you see him in the green suit or whatever, but it doesn't have the wings. It doesn't have the laser wrist thing. There's a lot of pieces missing that you don't really realize until he's in the middle of combat, and it's like, why is he not using his laser thing? It's like, oh, he picks one up, he gets it. So anyway, in the end, he's got the shiny green suit with the laser and the wings, and it's just he's the full package by the end. Right. So yeah, no, it definitely does. He says a lot of lines that Buzz says, like, "You're mocking me, aren't you?" Like that's a line that Chris Evans says. There's a couple lines sprinkled in there, but it's very much like anything that when you press a button on Buzz, he says, that's said in this movie. So, and
does he say you are a sad, strange little man? Does he say, "I'm not Buzz, I'm Mrs. Nesbit"?
He definitely doesn't say that. But yeah, real shame. So no, I think for what I think they did a great job with what they were trying to do. But I think the bigger question of this is, why did they want to do this? Right. Something we've talked about, Stephen, is, this is a maybe B or C, maybe a C plus story with an A plus character, and or IP, if you want to call it that. So it's just kind of weird that this even, like, why did this need to be a thing? And we've talked about, maybe somebody had this story and they were like, well, if we attach Buzz to it, maybe it'll work. But
it doesn't feel like its inception wasn't in the form that we got it.
Yes.
Like, it either started out as, we need a Buzz Lightyear movie, let's attach an existing script, or we want to make this movie, but we need to attach an established IP to it.
Yeah.
Like, there was some blending of multiple things at some point.
And I think honestly, what may give us a little bit more insight to that is if we do get a Woody movie after this, and I
would be surprised if we did.
I would too. But I'm more open to it now that I've seen what this is. But again, I still feel the same way of, like, I don't know that we need it. Like, I think Woody has his own thing going on, and, like, the character that we know is good. Yeah.
Give the people what they really want: a Slinky movie. Anna loves Slinky.
I love Slinky Dog too.
I love Slinky as well. Like, when we were at Disneyland in December, we found a shirt. It was a Christmas sweater that had Slinky Dog on it. And it said something on it, but it was Slinky Dog in a Christmas sweater, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most Anna article of clothing I've ever seen in my entire life. It was like $50, but I did not care. I was like, I would have gone up to a person and said, here's a check, write a number on it,
fill it out. I need that thing. I tell you what would be awesome. Do you remember, I think it was maybe Toy Story 3, where I think it was one of the openings. I don't know if it was like right at the beginning, but it was like within the first 10 minutes. There's that whole train scene.
That's 3.
And it's like happening like it's real, but it's really just Andy playing.
Right.
That's the movie I want to see. Like, let's,
from the perspective of the kids.
Yeah, let's make that. Let's do Bonnie creating her story, and it's happening with the characters that we know. I think to some degree she puts some of their real personality into it, but I think that could be really cool.
I think there's something there, but like, and I don't know if I like fully support this opinion, but I'm just going to propose the thought because it's where my mind went initially. I think you make that into a video game.
See, that could be cool too.
Because, like, I hear that and I think immediately of, like, funny enough, South Park: The Fractured Butthole. Okay. Because something that South Park did in video game form that I thought was really charming and great was that it was an epic like tactical RPG, but
It was kids playing.
It was kids playing. It never lost that feel.
Yeah.
And so like somebody like a kid would throw something and he would say something like, cards are mines. Like in the gameplay. Like just something like that, to where they blended reality and a child's imagination. I think you could do something with that with Toy Story, to where like you make it to where like you can create your own levels and worlds or something like Super Mario, but then when you play it, it comes to life.
Yeah.
Like you create it in toy form, but then when you play it, it's like hyper realistic and stuff like that. I think something like that would be really neat.
Yeah, I think that could be too. Because we've had a couple tries at a Toy Story game, but it's always been the toys in real world, like
Toys to Life.
Yeah, well, there's Toys to Life, but even just like there was one on the 64 where like you had to get out of Andy's room and like you could go to these different rooms in the house, and they were basically like different levels. And I remember it must have been around Toy Story 2 because there was an airport level where you were fighting the prospector and all that. So like those have been done and those were fine. Movie tie-in games have always been just kind of like, okay, cool, whatever.
There's some outliers.
There's some good ones. The Lord of the Rings ones I know we're both very fond of.
Bangers.
But usually
there's a tier list for you.
Oh, best movie time. I'm gonna write it down,
because that's one where you've got some that are good and you've got a majority that suck.
That's a great one. Next podcast, everybody. It's probably. I mean, seriously, that's a great one to do. I'm gonna put that at the top of the list, dude. But anyway, it's good. I love that idea. I love that pitch of a movie. So that's a great one. But yeah, that's pretty much it I had for Lightyear. So one I won't talk about, but I will eventually probably want to do is I bought Death Stranding. I've been playing it. I have not gotten very far at all, but I enjoy what I've been playing so far. So eventually, we'll probably talk about that. I gave everybody the opportunity to make me stream it, and granted that day fell apart, but
Matt was really disappointed because he asked me like that following Wednesday. I think he was like, "When's Jake's marathon stream?" And I was like, "Dude, that didn't happen."
Yeah,
he was like, "Who's gonna play Death Stranding?"
It fell apart. I felt so bad. I might can salvage some of it this coming Friday. I might can do some more. It just depends on what my work. I will only be able to do like an afternoon marathon. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, if y'all want, I'll play Death Stranding. That's whatever. I'll put that to a vote. But because honestly, it was going to be Cult of the Lamb. I didn't have Roller Drone, but that could have been one. And I had a bunch of different things. But now, like Cult of the Lamb, like if y'all want to see it, like I'm happy to show you guys. But like I have essentially done. I am one trophy away from beating it, and the only reason I haven't done it is because it's glitched. So as soon as it's unglitched, I can just pop in. It'll take me some time, but I can knock it out pretty quickly. So anyway, Death Stranding can do it, or we can do whatever. So that'll be coming up. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been Chortle Cast. Again, our podcast where we talk about video games, TV shows, movies, anything we want to talk about. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Hope you've enjoyed our conversation. We, of course, do this every Monday night, most Monday nights. Every now and then we'll take a break for an extra stream or something. But most Monday nights, usually starting around 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. Of course, we're live on YouTube, chortlegames.com. But this also goes out to podcast services everywhere. So wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcast, we're there. Go check us out. But that's not the only thing we do here on the channel. We do live streams every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Usually starting around 8 o'clock. Sometimes on Fridays we can do a little bit earlier. Sometimes we'll actually do like an afternoon stream, so kind of mixes it in there. But of course we should be live all 3 of those nights this week. We're still we usually about after this podcast is when me, Jeremy, and Steven all start texting like, "Hey, what do y'all want to play on whatever?" So just be sure to follow us here. Follow us on Twitter at Chortle Games. Join our Discord if you go to chortlegames.com. Look at the banner of our YouTube page. You'll see a Discord button. Click that. Join there. We always let you know when we're going live, and then sometimes we let people vote on what we're playing. But anyway, we're playing a lot of Raft right now. We're excited about Grounded. I'm probably going to be playing some Splatfest this weekend.
We need to return to GTFO. I'm playing GTFO right now, and I regret it because I am alone.
I would love to get back into GTFO. So lots of fun things and lots of fun things coming. So be sure to follow. And of course, we're also putting out clips from live streams out on YouTube as shorts. So if you see those, like them, share them with your friends, whatever. We're also on TikTok if that's more your jam. We're at Chortle Games on TikTok as well. So go like those, share those, whatever. Even if you just one trick on TikTok is if you hit share and then hit copy link, but you don't send it anywhere, the algorithm says, "Hey, somebody shared this." So don't even, if you like our content, do that extra step if you don't mind. That helps boost the content. So anyway, hope you're enjoying all that. Just little snippets as well. I know we stream so late, it's hard to catch everything. So I hope those kind of give you a hint at what you missed. And in a lot of ways are just a quick, easy thing to watch and just, say, hey, that was a great moment. So anyway, but that's it for tonight. We will see you guys later this week. Bye.
Bye.